Hello, everyone. I'm really glad you're here today. I wanted to sit down and talk with you about something that caught my attention recently. Not in a dramatic way, not in one of those everything you know is wrong kinds of moments. Just one of those quiet realizations that sort of sneaks up on you. Because maybe this has happened to you too. You walk into the kitchen and then stop. You stand there for a second and you think, wait, why did I come in here? So you walk back toward the living room, hoping your brain resets itself somehow. And halfway there, suddenly it comes back. Or maybe you pick up your phone, unlock it, stare at the screen, and completely forget why you grabbed it. Maybe you've read the same paragraph twice, three times. Maybe someone introduces themselves and 30 seconds later their name quietly disappears. Or you're in the middle of explaining something and suddenly lose your train of thought. Not because you're distracted, not because you're careless, the thought was there, and then somehow it wasn't. And I don't know about you, but I think moments like these can feel strange because they're small, tiny little moments, easy to brush off, easy to laugh about. But when they start happening more often, you notice. You really notice. You start wondering things. You start asking yourself quiet questions. Am I just tired? Am I stressed? Am I getting older? Why does my mind feel different lately? And I think that's the part people don't talk about enough. Not because it's frightening, but because it's hard to describe. Because sometimes it isn't forgetting huge things, it's subtle. It's feeling like your mind isn't moving quite the same way it used to. Like the gears are still turning, just a little slower. Like thoughts don't arrive as clearly. Like focus takes more effort. Like your mind gets tired before your body does. And this caught my attention because I started noticing people talking about this everywhere. Friends, family, people online. People saying things like, I just don't feel as sharp. My brain feels foggy. I keep losing words. I know what I want to say. It just takes longer. And maybe you've said some of these things too, because brain fog is a strange experience. It's hard to point at, hard to explain. You're functioning, you're doing life, but something feels slightly off. And here's where things become interesting. Researchers and people studying memory and focus have been paying attention to something that most of us have never even heard of, something called acetylcholine. Now don't worry, I'm not about to turn this into a biology class. Because honestly, when I first heard the word, I immediately thought, nope, sounds complicated. But the more I looked into it, the more I realized the idea itself is actually surprisingly simple. Think of acetylcholine like little text messages moving between brain cells, that's it. Tiny messages, tiny signals, little notes moving back and forth. Your brain cells are constantly trying to communicate. They're sending information all day long. Memory, attention, focus, learning, clarity, thoughts. And acetylcholine helps those messages travel, like a quiet messenger working in the background. Not loud, not flashy, just helping things connect, helping information get where it needs to go. And what surprised me is that most of us never think about this. We notice our thoughts, we notice our memory, but we rarely think about the systems underneath all of it, the invisible things quietly doing work every single day. And this is where things change for me, because I started realizing that changes rarely happen all at once. Most things happen quietly, little by little, almost invisibly. You don't wake up one morning and suddenly think, my focus is gone. Usually it starts much smaller. You forget where you left your glasses, then your keys, then you lose a word during a conversation. You reread something, you walk into rooms and pause. You start feeling mentally drained earlier in the day. Not exhausted physically, mentally. Like your brain battery reaches low power mode before the rest of you does. And now here's something surprising. Sometimes we assume these things appear out of nowhere, but daily life can quietly pile up in ways we barely notice. Sleep, stress, routine, movement, recovery, mental overload. Think about how many things your brain handles every day. Bills, appointments, family, messages, news, phone notifications. Remembering passwords. Remembering names. Remembering where you parked. Remembering why you opened the refrigerator. It's nonstop. And modern life doesn't exactly encourage recovery. Most people wake up and immediately begin processing information. Emails, texts, television, news alerts, conversations, tasks. decisions. And sometimes I wonder if our brains ever really get a chance to slow down. Because even when our bodies sit still, our minds keep running. And this caught my attention too. Because I realized there were days when my mind felt tired before lunch. Not sleepy, not physically exhausted, just mentally crowded. Like having 20 browser tabs open at once. You can still function, but things feel slower, less clear. And maybe you've had days like that too. Days where somebody asks you a question and you know the answer, but it takes a few extra seconds. Days where words feel just out of reach. Days where you put something down and 2 minutes later have absolutely no memory of where. You start checking tables, counters, pockets, bathrooms, kitchen shelves, only to discover it was sitting right in front of you, and you laugh. But part of you quietly wonders, why is this happening? And here's where things become interesting again, because researchers often point towards several everyday things that can affect how sharp we feel. Sleep is one, and this seems obvious until you really think about it. Because sleep isn't just rest. Your brain uses sleep differently. It's like overnight maintenance, like cleanup, resetting, organizing. And when sleep becomes inconsistent, sometimes things feel different. Focus changes, memory feels slower, thoughts feel heavier. Stress can play a role too. And honestly, stress is sneaky. Because we get used to it. We adapt. We tell ourselves, I'm fine. I've handled worse. This is just life. Meanwhile, our minds stay switched on all day. Always thinking, always anticipating, always solving, always carrying. And maybe after enough time, that constant mental load starts becoming normal. Movement matters too. Not because everyone suddenly needs to become a marathon runner, nothing like that. Just movement. Walking, stretching, being outside, circulation. Because your brain depends on an enormous amount of support happening quietly in the background. And routine matters more than most people realize. Because humans are strange. We like patterns. Our brains like rhythm. Sleep rhythm. Eating rhythm. Activity rhythm. Recovery rhythm. When life gets chaotic. Sometimes we feel it mentally before anything else. And now here's something surprising. People often think aging itself is the whole story. But many researchers suggest that what we experience can be influenced by a much bigger picture. Daily habits, stress, mental fatigue, recovery, nutrition, lifestyle, the accumulation of ordinary life. And maybe that's why some people describe it as feeling less sharp, because it doesn't arrive like flipping off a light switch. It's more like dimming, slowly, quietly, barely noticeable at first. Until one day you realize, wait, I didn't always feel this way. And somewhere during all of this, I got curious. Really curious. Not because I was looking for some miracle. Honestly, I've become skeptical of miracle claims. But I started reading more about ingredients people often discuss around memory support and cognitive health. Not treatments, not cures. Just things people kept mentioning, and I kept seeing certain names show up. Choline, DMAE, phosphatidylserine, huperzine, B vitamins. The same ingredients kept appearing over and over, and I remember thinking, interesting. Why do these keep coming up? So naturally, I kept reading, and eventually I came across something called NeuroZoom. Not because someone recommended it to me, not because of an ad. I simply noticed it while looking through discussions around cognitive support ingredients. And what caught my attention wasn't some huge promise. Actually, it was the opposite. It was the combination. Seeing several ingredients I'd already been reading about appearing together in one place made me pause. That was it. No dramatic moment. No, this changed my life overnight. Just curiosity. Because by then I wasn't thinking about shortcuts. I was thinking more about the bigger picture. The quiet things. The things happening underneath. Sleep, stress, mental overload, movement, recovery, nutrition. The invisible routines shaping how we feel. Because maybe that's what all of this comes back to. Not one giant event. Not one sudden explanation. Just small signals. Small patterns. Quiet clues. And maybe the strangest thing about memory and focus is that big changes often don't announce themselves. They whisper. They show up as rereading a sentence, forgetting a name, losing a word, walking into a room and standing there wondering why. Tiny moments, tiny clues, easy to dismiss, until suddenly they aren't. And maybe that's why this whole thing stayed with me. Because I think many people experience these moments and quietly assume they're alone. But I don't think they are. I think more people are walking around with mental fatigue than we realize. More people feeling brain fog, more people feeling mentally overloaded, more people saying, I don't feel quite as sharp lately. And maybe recognizing that is where everything begins. Not fear, not panic, awareness, just noticing. Because sometimes understanding what's happening feels lighter than wondering. So now I'm curious, what about you? Do you deal with brain fog, mental fatigue, reading things twice, forgetting names, walking into rooms and forgetting why you went there? I genuinely love to know. Leave a comment and tell me what you've noticed, because conversations like this matter. And maybe the biggest changes in life begin quietly too. Small observations, small habits, small moments of paying attention. Thank you for spending a few minutes with me today, and I'll see you in the next video.